Have you ever stumbled upon something that stopped you in your tracks, not because it was loud or dramatic, but because it was quiet and personal? It happened to me on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. I wasn't looking for anything, really, just tidying up the old bookshelf in the corner of our bedroom, the one she always kept neat, while I always seemed to stack things on top. Dusting off the top shelf, I found a slim, faded journal tucked behind a line of books. It had her handwriting on the cover, just her name and a date from nearly 20 years ago. I almost put it back. Something about it felt sacred, like it wasn't mine to read. But then I thought, she's gone, and maybe, just maybe, she left it for me. Or maybe she'd never meant for me to see it at all. I wasn't sure, but I opened it anyway. And what I found in those pages, it changed the way I saw her. Not the woman I knew, the woman I thought I knew after 42 years of marriage, but the version of her she only showed herself, her quiet thoughts, her private pain, her little joys. 5 things stood out. 5 things she never told me, not once. And not because she didn't want to. I think it was because she didn't know how. Or maybe she thought I wouldn't understand. The first one hit me like a whisper from across time. I always wanted more time alone. At first I didn't get it. She had time alone. Every afternoon, she'd sit out back with her tea and her garden magazine, or she'd go for walks while I napped. But as I read on, I realized she didn't mean time away from chores or errands. She meant space, mental space, emotional space. Time when she didn't have to explain herself, when no one needed anything from her. She wrote, "Some days, I wish I could sit in silence without having to make anyone feel better. Not because I don't care, but because I'm tired of always being the strong one." I never saw her that way. To me, she was the calm in the storm, the one who soothed our kids when they cried, who fixed problems before I even knew they existed. She had a way of making everything look effortless, but maybe that was the problem. I never thought to ask how she was doing beneath all that grace. It made me think how many women, especially of her generation, grew up believing they had to be quiet pillars. How many of us, even now, forget that silence doesn't always mean peace. If you're re-watching this, and you've ever kept something to yourself just to avoid rocking the boat, I want you to hear me clearly. It's okay to want space. It's okay to say you need a break. You're allowed. The second thing was more tender. She wrote, "I still think about the boy he used to be, and I knew she meant me." I laughed a little when I read it. I won't lie, because who doesn't like being remembered as the boy in someone's life? But then the next line broke my heart. Sometimes I miss that version of him, before life made him so serious. That one stung. I didn't even realize I'd hardened over the years. Work, money, responsibilities, they changed me. And when you're trying to do right by your family, you don't notice the small ways you stop smiling, the way your shoulders stay tense, the way you brush off a joke instead of laughing. She missed the light in me, the same way I missed the sparkle in her when life got tough. But neither of us said it. I wonder how many couples grow old thinking everything's fine because no one's fighting, no one's shouting, but deep down, there's this quiet grief for who you used to be together. I wish I'd noticed. I wish I'd told her that the girl I met at the town dance, the one with the shy smile and the crooked bangs eye, still saw her, even when she thought I didn't. If you've got someone beside you right now, your partner, your friend, your sibling, remind them of the version of them you first loved, not to guilt them, but to help them see that spark is still there. Maybe it's dimmed, but it's not gone. And sometimes, just knowing someone still sees it, that's enough to bring it back. There was something healing about reading those words, not just because they opened my eyes to her inner world, but because they gave me a second chance, not to fix things, but to understand them. And even though she's gone, I can still carry that understanding forward with my kids, my grandkids, my friends, maybe even with myself. There was something else she wrote that I didn't expect. It had nothing to do with love or regret. It was about fear, quiet, creeping fear. She wrote, "I worry he'll be lost without me." That's where I'll pick up next, because what she feared and what actually happened taught me more than I was ready to learn. She wrote, "I worry he'll be lost without me." That line stayed with me, not because it was dramatic, but because it was true, and I think she knew that. After she passed, there were whole weeks where I felt like I was floating through fog. I'd stand in the kitchen, not knowing why I walked in there. I'd hear a laugh on the radio and instinctively want to call her, just to say, "Did you hear that?" And then I'd remember, She worried I'd be lost, and I was. Not just because she was indeed there to fold the towels a certain way or keep track of birthdays, but because she had quietly become the map I used to move through life, and I hadn't realized just how often I relied on her strength, her calm, her steady hands behind the scenes. In one journal entry, she wrote, "He's stronger than he thinks, but he doesn't believe it because I've always been the quiet net underneath him. I never thought of her as a net. I thought of her as a partner, but maybe that's the thing, we see our loved ones as equals, but sometimes they're carrying more weight than they let on, and maybe they're afraid that if they stop, even for a second, the whole thing will fall apart." Her worry wasn't just about me being sad. It was about me not knowing how to keep going, how to feed myself well, how to reach out to others, how to find joy in the small, daily moments she used to create for both of us. And to be honest, for a while, I didn't know how. Grief doesn't come in waves like people say. It comes like fog. It settles in slowly, and before you know it, you're not sure how long you've been walking in it. But something in her words stirred me. She believed in me more than I believed in myself. She wrote, "If he reads this one day, I hope he remembers that he is still whole, even without me." And I started to believe her. It didn't happen overnight, but I began to take small steps. I cooked her favorite soup even though I forgot half the ingredients the first time. I started walking in the mornings, not because I had somewhere to go, but because I needed to feel the world moving around me again. And I reached out to people, old friends, neighbors, even my daughter, who said she'd been waiting for me to say I needed company. One morning, while sitting at our little kitchen table, I realized the fog had lifted just a little, enough for the sunlight to hit her favorite mug, and I smiled. For the first time in a while, it didn't feel like betrayal to be happy. It felt like a quiet promise being kept, like she was right there, whispering, "See, you're doing it." The fourth thing she never said out loud was something so small, so ordinary, that I almost missed its meaning. She wrote, "I loved the way he held my hand, even when we weren't talking." That might seem like a simple sentence, but when I read it, I realized just how powerful the small things had been for her. The hand-holding, the shared glances, the quiet togetherness on a Sunday morning when neither of us had much to say. She never once told me how much those tiny gestures mattered, and I never asked. It made me think about how many times I reached for her hand just out of habit, without realizing what it meant to her. To me, it was routine. To her, it was reassurance. It was love without needing words. And now, looking back, I wish I'd done it more. Not just out of habit, but out of presence. Because when you're older, it's not the grand gestures you miss. It's not the anniversary dinners or the vacations. It's the warm hand beside yours when you wake up in the middle of the night. It's the way she folded your shirt, just the way you like. It is the softness in her voice when she said your name, even if she was reminding you to take out the trash. If you're really lucky enough to have someone in your life right now, don't wait until later to appreciate the small things. Hold their hand and mean it. Look them in the eye when they speak. Tell them the little things they do that bring you comfort, because one day, someone might find your journal, and wouldn't it be something if they could read those words while you're still here to share them? The fifth thing she never told me was the hardest to read, not because it hurt, but because it was something she'd carried with her all those years, in silence. She wrote, "I never told him I forgave him." That one brought tears I didn't expect. Forgave me for what? She didn't say, and that, in itself, was a lesson. She wrote, "I never told him I forgave him," and then, nothing. No explanation, no story, just that quiet sentence sitting on the page, surrounded by blank space, as if it was too hard to write the rest, or maybe she'd already said everything she needed to, in her own heart. I stared at those words for a long time. I kept thinking, what did I do that needed forgiving? Was it something I said in anger? Was it the years I worked late and missed too many dinners? Was it the time I forgot her birthday? Or the way I used to dismiss her worries with a shrug and a "you worry too much"? Or was it all of it? The accumulation of small things. The moments I didn't show up in the way she needed, not because I didn't love her, but because I didn't know how to listen. I'll never know what she meant exactly. And in some strange way, that's the point. We don't always get a clean ending, or a neatly labeled box to put our regrets in. But her words weren't angry. They weren't bitter. They were quiet and full of grace. I never told him I forgave him, which means she had forgiven me. Silently, privately, without asking for an apology first, without needing me to say the right thing. She just let it go. And I only learned about it after she was gone. That kind of forgiveness humbles you, because we live our lives thinking we'll have time to say everything that needs saying, but we don't. Time runs out, voices fade, people leave, and what's left are the words we never said out loud. I wish I had told her I was sorry more often, not in a dramatic way but in the quiet, everyday kind of way. I wish I'd sat beside her and said, I know I haven't always made things easy, but I see you. I appreciate you, and I'm sorry for the times I didn't act like it. So, if you're sitting there watching this, and someone's face just popped into your mind, don't wait. Reach out. It doesn't matter if it's been days or decades. You don't need a big moment to say you're sorry, or to tell someone you've forgiven them. A simple message, a phone call, a walk in the park. Sometimes, the smallest acts carry the biggest healing. After reading that journal, I didn't just feel closer to my Wi-Fi. I felt like I had been invited into her most private sanctuary, the place she kept locked up, maybe even from herself. And in doing so, she gave me one last gift, a chance to become a better man, even now. A chance to reflect not just on what I lost but on what I still have. You see, getting older teaches you how fleeting everything is. You lose people, you lose routines, you lose the version of yourself you used to be. But if you're open, really opened, you start to realize that none of it was ever about perfection. It was about the love you gave in the quiet moments, the laughter you shared even when times were hard, the presence you offered, even if you didn't always have the right words. I kept that journal. I don't read it every day, just on the days when I miss her the most. Some pages still make me smile, others make me cry, but all of them remind me of one thing. No matter how long you're with someone, there will always be parts of them you don't fully know, and that's okay. What matters is how we show up, how we hold space for each other, how we leave nothing important unsaid, not because we expect a reward, but because the people we love deserve to know the truth of how we feel, while we still have the chance to say it. If anything in this story stirred something in you, maybe a memory, or even a bit of regret, I want you to know you're not alone. We all carry things we wish we'd done differently. We all have people we miss, but it's never too late to choose honesty, kindness, or connection. Even a quiet gesture like holding someone's hand without needing a reason can say more than 1,000 perfect words. So before this video ends, take a moment, think of one thing you've never said but wish you had, and then say it out loud to someone, or write it in a letter, or whisper it to the stars. Whatever it is, give those words a voice, because silence holds so much, but love deserves to be spoken. If this story touched your heart, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. You never know who might need your words today. And if you'd like more stories that speak gently but deeply to where you are in life, consider subscribing. It helps us keep sharing and maybe, just maybe, remind someone out there that they're not alone. Here's to love that lingers, to forgiveness that frees us, and to the words we still have time to say.